Welcome, everybody, to the third episode of the Mountain to Mainstream podcast. I'm your host, Peyton Fitzpatrick. With me, as always, is co-host Andrew Evans. We want to thank everybody for all the support for the first two episodes. We got a big one today, interviewing local high school athlete Braydun Ferris, and then talking a little bit about the college football as well as the NFL playoffs as they are underway and getting ready to start, and then talking a little bit of local college hoops with WVU and UK off to what I would say are pretty good starts for both schools. I think both fan bases have a lot to talk about, and going into some local high school hoops as well, talking a little bit about that, and finishing up with our New Year's resolution. So quite a bit to go through this episode. We hope you stick around and like what you hear, and let's get right into it.
All right, guys. So now we have our first interview in the third episode of Mountains of Mainstream Sports. We have Tug Valley point guard Braydun Ferris joining the show. Last year, he was first-team All-State as a sophomore in their state championship win, and he has actually won single-A All-Tournament his freshman and sophomore year. So that's his introduction. I'm going to let Peyton start off with the questions.
Yeah, Braydun. So as a sophomore, you helped Tug Valley win a state championship. I think you averaged like around 16 points and 5 assists a game last season. Coming off the backs of a state title, how has that changed your preparation for this season, if it's changed it any?
It really ain't changed a lot. We're really set on winning another championship, and it'd be great to go back to back.
Yeah, of course. A lot to live up to. Back-to-back titles is kind of a Tug Valley thing. So hopefully you guys can bring another back-to-back title to Naugatuck. So as a top guard in the 2026 class, you're building up quite the resume already. Have you thought any about college recruitment? Any ideas as far as that goes?
Well, I'd really like to go to UPike, but anything's I'd be blessed with.
Absolutely. And then last question from me. Tug Valley's known to have a rabid fan base. How does that play into your game? Do you feed off the crowd more? Do you like the ruckus environment in Naugatuck? What do you think about all the crowd from Tug Valley?
I feel like when the crowd's really into it, I think that's when we play our best basketball. I think they have a big factor of most of our wins.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's not just at Tug Valley home games. I mean, you guys played at St. Joe to open the season, and I went to that game, and it was like there was more black and silver than there was anybody from St. Joe. So I think everybody knows Tug Valley fans travel as good as anybody. So I
think we have one of the best fan bases in the state.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think talking about you guys playing at Tucker County over the weekend, it seemed like Tug Valley traveled well to that game, and it's 3 hours away, bad weather, so I think that just speaks even more volume on Tug Valley as a fan base. But I'm going to start with my questions now here. Mine are a little bit more relaxed here, a little bit more personal. Going into a game, what artists are you bumping before a game?
Probably Lil Baby or Drake.
Okay. And this might not be a set thing, but what do you like the best as a pregame meal going into a game?
It really don't matter. I like to eat really heavy, like 5 or 6 hours before the game, so I don't have to eat for the rest of the day. So whatever I can eat heavy is what I eat.
Okay. And then the last question I have here, I have wrote down, what advice would you give to the younger kids coming up as far as not even just becoming a high school player, but having as much success as you have? What advice would you give them to help prepare them for a successful career?
Just stay in the gym all the time, build your confidence, and stay humble.
Sounds good. I need you to tell your little brother that for me. We could use
I try
all
the
that
time.
down on the North right now. But Braydun, thanks for coming on. Pleasure to have you, and we'll be coming out to support you at some of your games coming up.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Want to thank Braydun once again for joining us, and then just piggybacking off that, we're going to start talking a little bit about local basketball hoops. So Andrew, why don't you give us your thoughts on the landscape in our local area when it comes to basketball this season?
Yeah, and some of the high school teams we want to touch on right now, we got a list. We got Tug Valley, Mingo Central, Tolsia, Belfry, and Martin County. To me, that's the most local to where we are, and probably my most watched teams. We'll start kind of like you said, piggybacking off Braydun. Let's just start with Tug Valley.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Braydun at the point guard position, very polished player. I enjoy watching him play. Caden Hale's been a very bright spot for them this year, shooting the ball very well.
Uh-huh.
Still got Ashton Davis, Carson Newsom, and Bryson Eli to round out that starting five. Took a tough loss to Phelps at home. I'm not sure if you've seen that
Yeah.
game winner Phelps hit, but I mean,
Yeah, their coach, he got in 2 or 3 laps around the gym at the end of that one. I don't know, but I mean, stuff like that happens when you're a championship team and everybody's coming in looking for your head for sure. I mean, that's when you're coming off the title, everybody's planning for you, knows it's going to be a tough game, and they're bringing their best. And I think it's just one of those things you got to keep your head up, know what kind of team you are, and move forward. There's been a lot of talk about Tug Valley this year, how they're going to rebound the ball, losing Buddy Markham from last season. I think they've done a decent job enough with it. You know, they're a team that I've watched that when I watch them, I think they really excel getting out on the break. I think they play tough defense. I really like the defense they play. I think Carson, the games I've watched, he started Carson Newsom, and he brings that defensive mentality. Um, and as you said, Caden Hale has been a good shooter. So I like what I've seen out of them. Tough loss for sure, but
yeah, and like you said, rebound the ball has been probably the biggest issue this year for them so far. But when they do get the rebound, they get out and run. They kind of start with a small ball lineup and then bring Aiden Farrell off the bench. Farrell provides some size. I like his game, but man, it's hard for anybody to fill Buddy Markham's shoes. I think Tug Valley faithful's starting to finally realize how important Buddy was to that championship run last year. Buddy wasn't going to wow you with anything, but man, he really played his role. Hard-nosed defender, great rebounder, and you know, right now you're seeing he's sorely missed. But like I said, on the other hand, it just kind of changes. It changes the dynamic of the team a little bit. But I think they'll be right there back in the running for another state title.
absolutely. And just last thing I'll say about them, I love watching them this season. I think they take care of the ball well. I hate watching teams that turn over the ball a lot. I think Tug Valley does well at handling the ball, make smart plays. They cause a lot of turnovers. So I'm excited to see how the rest of this season goes for them.
Yeah, ask my guys at Lenore Middle School how bad I hate turnovers, and they'll give you a pretty sure shot answer there. But anyway, moving on. Let's talk about Mingo Central. Let's keep it in the county till we move on. Mingo Central, they've I noticed the other day when they was playing Belfry, they've kind of took the injury bug already. Devin Maynard, a former Lenore Ranger, he to me is probably their best offensive player. He's actually in a boot right now. I'm not sure what the injury is, but that's a big loss right now. Hopefully he's not out for too long. They have Caden Porter returning. He's a senior. He's a veteran guard. He knows how to play the game. Maddox Sarton, actually, from Chapmanville Middle School, had transferred over there. He's starting as a freshman, so they're looking to kind of build him from the ground up. But you know, they definitely don't have as much talent as they have had in years past. But I like Coach Stan Elkins up there. He's an old school kind of coach, good guy. But I think as the season progresses, they'll continue to improve and go as far as that can take them.
Yeah, I agree. Good coach can take you a long way. I know, like you said, they've had the injury bug for sure. I think just main thing for them is having their players return healthy, continuing to develop their younger guys, and seeing what they can do with the program as the year progresses. But yeah.
And then staying in the state before we cross over into Kentucky, we'll talk about Tulsa. Tulsa, I will say this about Tulsa, and this is the team I was probably most excited to talk about. Going into this season, and I'm not going to sugarcoat it, I really expected them to not have much talent whatsoever. I mean, they lost Parker Watts. I didn't know of many kids coming up to play, but man, it just seemed when I got the opportunity to watch them against Phelps, and even the kids that played last year that's returning, they've vastly improved. They've added a couple kids. They had a little left-handed guard. I'm not sure his name or where he came from, but he played well. C.J. Waller, I think, is a sophomore, junior. He's about 6'5" kid. He has all the potential in the world. And I've seen glimpses of him could be a really good player. I think he still has some room to grow. But you got kids like Evan Ball, Cole Blackburn, Bray Mullet. They're all returnees, and I think they have all vastly improved since last year. And I was vastly impressed on how well they played with Phelps, and they hung in there. And Phelps is a good ball team. So,
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you said. Listen, like, I think everybody expected Tulsa to just roll over this season, and one thing about them, they're going to come in and they're going to give you their best. And it's not, all these improvements, they're not coming from thin air. Like Cole Blackburn, as well as I do, he works as hard as anybody in the off season, never stops, and I think you can see it on the court this season. He's much improved. He's got more confidence, and I think he's a great addition, or not addition, but a great asset to the team this season. I like what I see out of him, and I like what I see out of the whole team. Hopefully they can just build a culture. I think that's, if I was to like give them a goal for the season, it's like build this culture and maintain it, because if you can get some increased talent and just continue to work hard, they're going to be tough to beat in single A in the years coming.
yeah, and you can't help but love Cole, man. He's a good kid, hard worker. But, I mean, I think the culture at Tulsa, to be honest, is kind of set. Brian Stacy's their head coach. I'm not sure if you know him or not. But, man, the thing I really love about Brian is every year, man, he's making sure these kids are out in the community doing different things. They have a big community day. I think they just had it last weekend, or maybe 2 weekends ago, that they have both feeder schools come and play. They have some youth teams in their area come play. And then the high school is kind of like the nightcap. But it's just like a big day for the community. All the players are involved. The younger kids look up to the high school kids, and he really makes sure that those kids understand that and set a good example for those kids. And I've always really liked that about Brian. And I don't know if you've ever seen a Brian Stacy Facebook post, but it never ends without a "Love My Rebels" at the end. And I just always thought that was really cool of him.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so moving across state lines into Kentucky, we will start with the Martin County Cardinals, and them and Tulsa's kind of got a little bit of similarity right now. It's not really similarity, but coincide with each other, if you will, because former Tulsa guard Parker Watts has transferred there to finish his senior year, or to complete his senior year. He went in the summer, but anyway. Parker, there's so many things I could say about Parker, and a lot of people go on about, is he going to play college football? Is he going to play college basketball? Here's the thing about Parker. He is a D1 athlete. I will say that. I truly believe he has D1 athleticism. Now, can he improve as far as skill set on the football field, skill set on the basketball court? Of course. But I think athleticism, there's no one in this tri-state that compares to the athleticism that kid has. And then looking on down Martin County's roster, you have Dapper Dandy, Bryson Dials. He's a freshman, man, but I've watched that kid play since he's probably in third or fourth grade. He can really flat out shoot the ball. Peyton Davis, seasoned veterans guard for the Cardinals. He's only improved every year since he's really got into basketball, in my opinion. And then they got a big kid named Devin Maynard. He kind of puts you in mind of Buddy a little bit more athletic probably, but he beats and bangs and rebounds the ball well. So I like the way they look. I'm not sure anything about their record or wins and losses. I know they took a trip to, I want to say Florida, and got a couple wins down there. That's the thing I like about Martin County, man. They really give those kids opportunity to go do some stuff that kids from other schools just don't get the opportunity to do, and I always thought that was cool of them.
Absolutely. And going back to what you were saying about Peyton Davis, I mean, I think he's improved every year, and I think that has a lot to do with the long lineage of what I will say is great point guard play in Martin County. I think they just have a good line of guard play, and I think that's something that you can expect out of them every year. I like what I've seen out of them this year. I'm not sure what their record is either, but I know that they play tough, they play hard. And man, just Kentucky basketball is just a different beast for anybody that just follows West Virginia. I mean, it is tough to get in, and I think they've had a couple good years stretch, and I'm just excited to see how they can finish out this year.
Yep, and lastly, we will talk about the Belfry Pirates. Belfry, brand new coach, a lot of new faces. I really like their coach, Brent Perry. I think he's done well so far for what he has. And Belfry's just only continued to improve, honestly. I think game after game, I think they've gotten better. They have transferred Jackson Estridge. He's probably their top player in my opinion. Formerly played at Prestonsburg. Jackson, man, he's one of those kids. His work ethic is unmatched, and he's one of these kids too. From freshman year Jackson Estridge to senior year Jackson Estridge is not even remotely close to the same player, and it's honestly amazing to see how far that kid's come. Brody Little returned back to Belfry after spending some high school years over at Pikeville, another great asset to that team. Ethan Dials, formerly from Man, been living in South Carolina for a few years. He recently joined the Pirates. He's about a 6'5" forward, has a lot of talent, and so to me, that's kind of your big three. Carter Jude's another guy they got. He's a point guard. He's kind of like a floor general, runs the offense for him. But like I said, I think every time I've watched them, they've continued to improve. And anytime you got a whole new constructed roster, new coach, it takes time. But I think by the end of the year, they'll surprise some people in the 15th region.
Yeah, I mean, I think you rambled off more about them than you even did our old alma mater, Tug Valley there. So I don't have much to add to that. I think I agree with you that they're only going to improve in the 15th region. Better look out for the Pirates come the end of the year.
Moving on from high school hoops, we're going to talk about a couple college programs that are probably the most locked in our area. We're going to talk a little bit Kentucky basketball, a little bit about West Virginia basketball. I'm going to start with Kentucky basketball because I personally am a Kentucky fan. So, let's see, today's Monday, but Saturday, the Wildcats had a huge win at home against the Florida Gators, who were ranked number 6 in the country, 13-0. I got to watch bits and pieces of that as my middle school team was on the road going towards St. Joe. But I watched the first half and probably the last 5 minutes of that game. And, man, what else can you say about Kobe Bryant? That guy is the best shooter in the country, and he really lifted our team with I think he had 26 or 28 off the bench on Saturday. And, man, just the way he shoots the rock is incredible. I'm loving Mark Pope still. We have 3 wins against top 10 teams this year. And, it's kind of like a breath of fresh air, if you will. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be one of these guys that said I hate Calipari. Calipari gave us a national championship. And, to me, I started being a Kentucky fan when I was about 10. That was Calipari's first year, so it was kind of sentimental for me when he left. But at the end of the day, we just had some very underwhelming years in the past 5-6 years, and I like Pope coming in and what he's done so far.
Yeah, and then I'm just going to go straight into talking about WVU in a similar situation with Huggins' departure and all the controversy surrounding that, and they've also had quite an impressive year, starting out better than I think most people would think. They're 11-2 this year, and they've won both of their matchups in Big 12 conference play. Just had a big win to end the year, taking their victory in Kansas. I think it got everybody kind of pumped, and they were going into underdog. Kansas was ranked 7, and they just squeak it out by a point. And then so they've just been very impressive. I've liked what I've seen about them. Next challenge is against Arizona again tomorrow. Like we said, we were recording this on Monday, so tomorrow, Tuesday, they're playing Arizona. They beat Arizona earlier in the year at the what was it called? The Battle for Atlantis. So it's hard to beat a team twice. We'll see how that turns out, but I don't think anybody was expecting them to go as far as they did in that tournament. If I remember correctly, they lost out to Louisville in that tournament. So, and that was an overtime game as well. Lots of overtime, tough nail biter victories. You kind of are starting to expect that from this team, and I just really like what I've seen from them this year.
Yeah, not to mention to bring up West Virginia winning at Kansas is the first time West Virginia has ever won at Allen Fieldhouse. So,
Yeah,
made history in that game. So,
for sure. And I think it's been a long time coming. It's tough to go into the Allen Fieldhouse for anybody to win, and so just switch that out, getting 2-0 in Big 12. I like what I've seen from them. I'm excited to see how the rest of this season shapes up for the Mountaineers, and hopefully this can roll over to next season, and we can just continue to build the program up.
I agree. So now we're going to transition into college football playoff matchups. I'll kind of let you take the
Yeah,
lead.
so first I want to say, the matchups were in the semifinals. We've got Ohio State versus Texas and Notre Dame versus Penn State. This quarterfinal matchup was fantastic. Going into it, I thought that it was going to be more of the same from the first round, just no real competition, no competitive nature. And I'll just start with the big game that everybody's going to want to talk about is Notre Dame versus Georgia. Georgia, of course, playing backup quarterback in this game, but you still kind of expected the Bulldogs to pull it out, and Notre Dame gave them, a tough matchup, played hard-nosed football, and ended up squeaking out a victory there. I like what I've seen from this Notre Dame program. I think watching them versus Penn State is going to be, something to keep an eye out for. Penn State's defense was elite against Boise State. They made Ginty look, like just the run-of-the-mill running back. And so I'm curious to see what this matchup will be because Notre Dame's defense as well was spectacular. So not quite sure what to expect from this. I think going in, I'm going to pick Penn State to win. I think just their defense, they've got the number 2 projected overall pick on their defense, and I just really like what I've seen from them.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on those points, and that'd probably be my picks as well. Like you said, they made Ginty look like just everybody's hyping him up all year, and it looked like just any old average Joe running around out there. So that was very surprising. But
yeah, and then on the other side, going from Ginty, who they made to look run of the mill, to another running back, do it all type player, Skatibo, in the matchup against Texas from Arizona State. Man, what a great game. I thought that I honestly looking at this bracket, I thought that was going to be the blowout game of this whole round. I was not interested in watching it. I flipped it on just because there was really nothing else to watch. And man, am I glad I did, because what a game. Like I said, Skatibo was everywhere. I think he probably brought himself up 2 rounds or more in the draft. He's an absolute stud. And going into the game, I picked Texas. I think Texas was a 14-point favorite, 13.5-point favorite. I had them blowing that out of the water. And man, what a game. Tough-nosed victory. And I'm excited to see what Texas is going to do in the next round. I think going into the entire playoffs, I had Texas as my number 1 team. They have great run and play when they do decide to run the ball. I don't know. I feel like they want to pass way too much with Quinn Ewers, which, I mean, is to be expected. He's a stud as well at quarterback, but they have great running when they do it. And I just think if they can get more reliable coaching and more discipline, they're going to run away with this tournament. But man, what a game. And now they've got to turn their attention to the Buckeyes, which is going to be a tough matchup as well.
Yeah, I fully expected Texas to blow that game out of the water, and I'm kind of upset I didn't get the opportunity to watch that. I forget what was going on that day, but man, I watched all the highlights and definitely seen my Facebook was just flooded of Texas and Arizona State, comments about the game and thoughts, and it, like you said, what a game it was.
Yeah, and then their opponent, the Buckeyes, man, they just dismantled the Ducks. Going in, everybody I talked to had Oregon in that game.
I did.
I had the Buckeyes. I don't know, something about that Duck team just wasn't it for me, and I never would have expected it to be as much of domination from Ohio State as it was. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with the Buckeyes versus Texas. One team barely skating by a team everybody thought they would blow out, and then the other team on the other side blowing out the team that everybody expected to beat them. So interesting matchup for sure.
Yeah, I had so much faith in the Ducks that I actually put $50 on Oregon at halftime of that game. It was 50 to win 750. So once they got the ball back and scored, and then they had the quick 3-and-out, I actually could have cashed out for like $55, which granted I wish I would have at this point.
Yeah, $5 extra. Yeah.
Yeah, I let it ride. It's not even the fact of $5 extra. It was the fact I could have just got my money back from being an idiot. But at the same time, I had a lot of faith in Oregon making a comeback, but unfortunately that did not happen.
Yeah. No. So I think coming off that, we'll just give our predictions for this next round of the playoffs. Of course, I told you I think I'm going to have Texas winning it all. I'm going to have them beating the Buckeyes and Penn State beating Notre Dame, and then Texas beating Penn State in the finals.
Yeah, I'm not sure about all my individual picks. I will say this, and it pains me to say this, and I hate to say this, but the way Ohio State dismantled Oregon like that, I think I'm going to have to pick them to win the entire thing. All right, moving on from college football, we're going to dive into the NFL. We'll start with the AFC matchups. We'll take it a game at a time. We'll start off with your favorite team, the Broncos versus
Who dey? I had to hear it from Bengals fans for 2 weeks how they were going to do the improbable and make it to the playoffs, and now they're all upset because the Chiefs rested everybody and the Broncos got an easy way in. First off, I want to say this. Win your first 5 out of 6 games, and maybe you make it to the playoffs. They lost to your team, the 4 and whatever Patriots in the first couple of weeks. I mean,
first game of the year.
Yeah, I mean, Bengals looked elite going down the stretch, but you got to win. You got to win every game. Every game matters. So, tip my hat to them. But also on the other hand, who dey? So now that we got that out of the way, looking up to our first round matchup, we got the Broncos versus the Bills. If I'm going to be honest, I do not have high hopes for the Broncos to beat the Bills. That being said, I would not count them out. Bo Nix has looked like an absolute stud the past couple of weeks. First off,
come on, brother.
One of the most elite defenses in the NFL by every metric. Amazing defensive line. You've got Benito, who early on was the defensive player of the year watch, was leading the league at sacks at one point. You got Patrick Surtain II, who absolutely stud, best cornerback in the league. I said it. On the other side of him, you got Riley Moss, who was, the reason that Bengals game was so close was because Riley Moss came back from injury that game, and they were just targeting him with T. Higgins, picking him apart. He looked a lot better health-wise against the Chiefs, in my opinion. He was moving a lot better. So I look for him to play better against the Bills. I'm not going to pick against the Bills. I'm not going to say we're going to beat the Bills, but I'm going to tell you this. It will be a much closer game than people are realizing. The Broncos are a playoff team. They've looked better than some of the other teams that have made it into the playoffs. I've watched a lot of NFL this year, and I'm very excited to see what we've got moving forward. That being said, the Bills are the Bills. They're the only team to beat the Chiefs this year. Josh Allen is just a playoff performer, and, Von Miller is looking, he posted a pretty funny post. I'll see if I can put it up on the screen about, him coming back and having to play against the Broncos in the playoffs. So I think it'll be an interesting matchup. But, yeah, I'll say the Bills, but I also wouldn't be surprised if it's a better game than people are expecting.
Well, let me bust a fanboy's bubble here. The Bills will easily win this matchup. Josh Allen will destroy one of the best defenses in the league. Josh Allen is not scared of the Broncos. He will cut you guys up the entire game, and I look for the Bills, and mark my words, we'll come back to this. The Bills will win this game by 20-plus points.
Receipts, write them down. When this is a one-score game or less, write it down. If the Broncos win, write it down. This reel will be circulated on every social media account that Mountains to Mainstream has if the Broncos beat the Bills.
Well, we'll just have to see if that happens because it won't. All right, moving on. Next matchup in the AFC playoffs, you have the Steelers and the Ravens. I'll start on this one. I don't look for this to be much of a game. Lamar Jackson's probably going to win MVP, as bad as it pains me to admit that now. I really want to win. But, the combination of Jackson and Henry this year has been pretty elite to see. Don't get me wrong, they've had their games where it just seemed like neither one showed up. But them playing Pittsburgh, I don't look for it to be much of a game, and I think the Ravens will take this one pretty easily as well.
Yeah, when I was alluding to the Broncos being better than some of the other teams that made it into the playoffs, I was talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers. They have looked absolutely abysmal the past couple weeks. It really started when George Pickens went down. I think the Russell Wilson to Pickens connection was pretty special for the first couple weeks that they were playing together. He went down with that injury, and ever since then, the Steelers have looked lost on offense, absolutely abysmal on offense. Getting that nice Russell Wilson treatment that us Broncos fans were used to the past couple years. And so I just, I don't see them even coming close to the Ravens. I think the Ravens might be the most complete team in the NFL as far as, skill set at running back, quarterback. They have a decent receiver core with Zay Flowers. Their defense is elite. So I'm also going to take the Ravens in this one, and this will be the blowout matchup of the first round.
And then lastly, we have the Chargers and the Texans. I'm a huge fan of Herbert. I think he is one of the most underrated players in the league. I don't think he has, like he was talking about the Ravens, they have such a complete skill set at all these positions. I don't think Herbert has that luxury, but he seems to pull off big-time performances with what he does have. And which Texans, also a very good team. They're in the playoffs for a reason, but I think I would take the Chargers in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree. I'm going to take the Texans, and listen, we've talked about the Texans on here a bit. I love what they had when they picked up Joe Mixon. I like what they did when they picked up Diggs. They have a complete team, but they have not looked great the past couple weeks. Not nearly what they should have been. That being said, I still got to pick them over the Chargers. Look, the Chargers have looked fantastic. I think Herbert has looked great. Him and Ladd McConkey, man, they got something special with him. They squeaked out a victory over the Broncos on the Thursday night game a couple weeks ago, and they looked pretty good. That being said, the Broncos were right in it. I think there were some questionable calls during the end, maybe a little biased, but I don't see them. If the Texans show up to play, I don't see them making it past the Texans in round one.
And then, which obviously the Chiefs have the bye in that.
Yeah, they'll play the winner of the Chargers and Texans. I think that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, and honestly, thinking further down the road on that, I probably would rather see the Texans play the Chiefs than that.
The Chiefs have seen both teams quite a bit this year, if I'm not wrong. I think the Chiefs played the Texans on one of the Christmas Day special games.
I think so.
Dismantled them completely. Chargers, of course, an AFC West team as well as the Chiefs, so they've seen each other twice this year. So whoever they see, it's going to be, tough matchup just because it's hard to play a team multiple times. But yeah, Chiefs, if I was them, I would rather see the Chargers probably.
All right, and moving on to the NFC, our first matchup we'll talk about is the Vikings and the Rams. Start.
Yeah, so Vikings versus Rams, I think it's going to be a pretty decent matchup. Vikings just kind of got dismantled by the Lions in Week 18. There was a lot on the line for that game. And the reward for losing that is now playing a tough LA Rams team that, has all the weapons in the world. I think my pick is going to be the Vikings. I think the Vikings are just a complete team. I think Sam Darnold, he's starting to get a lot of hate after this performance this week. I would say this, his O-line absolutely sold him the entire game. From what I watched, he just had no pocket. Hopefully they can get that together. But I just, the Rams have all the talent in the world, but I just still, the Vikings are a well-coached, well-oiled machine, so I'm going to take them in this matchup.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Vikings too. And I think we all want to see, correct me if I'm wrong, but the winner of that game would play the Lions, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we'd all like to see that happen again after what happened last night. I think the Vikings would come much more prepared and probably better game. Moving on, we got the Commanders and Buccaneers. Me being a Patriots fan, And when Brady went over to Tampa Bay, I couldn't help but not to root for him. I watched a lot of their games. I've always liked Mike Evans. Big Mike Evans fan. I always pick him on my fantasy team every year. And ever since Baker's took over in Tampa Bay, I think they have a very high-powered offense. It's just you never know if they're going to show up or not. I think the consistency of it is probably their main problem. I don't think their defense is that bad, but I think if the air raid offense that the Buccaneers really thrive on shows up to play in this game, I think they take the win in this one.
Yeah, this is another matchup where I think, Buccaneers, like you said, their offense has been great under Baker Mayfield. Just looking at, you said you take Mike Evans every year in fantasy. I took the flyer on Jaden Daniels this year to be my starting quarterback, and man, what an elite QB he has been this season by all metrics. I was very shocked at the long ball on this kid, man. Like he's got the clutch gene, 2 Hail Marys to win games early in the season. I like what I've seen out of him, but I'm going to agree with you on this one. I think the Buccaneers will probably squeeze this out. I would not be surprised if the Commanders win, but I'm just going to say, they're young. They're a young team. I think everybody's excited for what they did this season. Win or lose, I think, Commanders fans are happy. They have a lot to build off of, but, I think the experience of most of the people on the Buccaneers offense is going to play a big role in this game, and they're going to squeak out a victory here.
And lastly, we look at the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles. Philly's been a very talked about team all year. Adding Saquon Barkley in the offseason just, amplify that offense even more. Green Bay's been a surprising team this year. I think talking about earlier we was talking about teams that we just didn't have much faith in going into it. I think they've exceeded expectations. It wouldn't surprise me to see this be a decent game, but at the end of the day, I probably take Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm going to take Philly as well. I think, you want to go into the playoffs strong. I know that, the Chiefs just got blew out by the Broncos, but that doesn't really count. A lot of these teams, the Bills just lost to the Patriots. These are teams that are like resting starters. You look at the Packers, and they just took, a defeat to their biggest rival, the Bears, in Lambeau on the last week of the season. You just wonder how that's going to play mentality-wise. Jordan Love has turned into a very good starting quarterback in this league. I think, he's right on that cusp of becoming elite. They have lots of weapons, but at the end of the day, the Eagles are the Eagles, the most rabid fan base in the NFL. And, maybe the Bills Mafia has something to say, but I mean, Philly sports is just Philly sports. Saquon is, MVP candidate, only MVP candidate that's not a quarterback for good reason. Right on the cusp of Eric Dickerson's record. I think he would have had it if he wasn't arrested in Week 18. And so just looking at this matchup in its entirety, I think, the Eagles are going to have this. But I agree with what you said. This could be a closer matchup than what a lot of people are expecting.
Yeah, I agree. So I know this wasn't planned, but I want to put you on the spot here. Give me your picks out of both leagues and your Super Bowl matchup.
Out of both leagues, in the NFC, I'm going to have to take the Lions. I know it's kind of cliche to take the 1 seed, but they're just the most complete all-around team. I've really liked what I've seen out of the Lions when I watched them. David Montgomery will probably be back. You'll have that Sonic and Knuckles, as they call themselves, running back duo. Almiron St. Brown is just one of the best wide receivers in the league. I love Dan Campbell's coaching. He's aggressive. I like aggressive coaching, especially in the playoffs. I think that can, play into them. And honestly, I just want to see the Lions succeed at the end of the day. They've been one of the most tortured fan bases in the NFL. And so seeing them get to the Super Bowl would make me very happy. And then in the AFC, I'm going to have to take the Bills. As it pains me to say, I think they're going to squeak by the Broncos. And I think, I think they're going to end up inevitably meeting up with the Chiefs in the AFC final matchup. And I think this is Josh Allen's year. Another fan base that's just been tortured is the Bills, and I would like to see them squeak by. They've already beat the Chiefs once this year. I have confidence that they can do it again. So I'm going to have to say the Bills versus the Lions in the Super Bowl. I think that would be, a huge matchup. It's hard to pick a winner between the two, but I'm going to have to take the Bills to win the Super Bowl this year.
And speaking on the Lions, I think, and like you just said, I've had so many people say that this year. The Lions have been such a tortured fan base for so long. And I know everybody sees Dallas as America's team. I think this year the Detroit Lions are America's team. Everybody wants to see them win the Super Bowl now that they finally have a great shot at doing so. However, I'm not going to let emotions play into my picks here. Out of the NFC, I'm going to take the Philadelphia Eagles. I think they're going to return to the Super Bowl. And out of the AFC, as bad as it pains me, you know how big I've been on the Bills this year, I don't think the Zebras are going to let them get knocked out. I think you'll see Kansas City back in the Super Bowl. So I predict a final matchup in the Super Bowl between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. However, I'm picking the Philadelphia Eagles to take home the trophy this year.
I like it. 2-1 seeds, both from different sides. We'll have to see how this plays out. But yeah, I don't hate your pick at all. I think it's going to be an interesting NFL playoffs to watch for sure. There's a lot of top teams. I feel like it's more unpredictable than seasons past for sure.
Now, time out though. Didn't Philadelphia get the 2 seed and the Lions got the 1?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, and you said I picked 2 1 seeds, buddy.
No, I picked a 1 seed and you picked a 1 seed. I picked the Lions and you picked the Chiefs. Yeah,
I see what you're saying now. All right. So that wraps up our NFL talk. The last segment we have planned for today, and this is not really sports related. Mine kind of will be actually just because of how my life is. But we're going to talk about our New Year's resolution. Today is January 6th?
6. Yep.
January 6th. So a little bit late on it, but we've had it figured out. We just this is the day we recorded the podcast. So I'll let you go first. What is your New Year's resolution for 2025?
I mean, I've got a couple, I think everybody has the generic wanting to go to the gym more. I've already started out, pretty poorly. I think I went on the 2nd and then haven't went since. But in my defense, there's a literal blizzard outside right now. So, we'll take that as it is. But my big New Year's resolution this year was to finish the Bible. Actually, I have a reading schedule, reading a couple verses every day. And so hopefully by the end of the year, when we wrap up this podcast, I have a list over there somewhere checking off what readings I need to get through every day. It's like 5 days a week. That way, if I miss a day or two here and there, I'm still on track. So hopefully by the end of the year, I can show you that I've checked off everything and finished the Bible this year. I think that's something that, I'd like to do before the year ends. It's been kind of hard with school. Those of you who know me well know that I'm in medical school, and that's just been, tough time studying all the time. It's hard for me to read literally anything at this point. I used to love reading, and now I just can't even. I can't pick up a book because I'm reading so much for school. And I think a lot of people, same thing happens when they're going through school. So hopefully this year will be a lot better. Entering my last year of medical school come March, and hoping to coast through and finish my Bible readings and finish out school strong. That's my New Year's resolutions.
Sounds like a pretty good plan for 2025. And kind of like, yours is kind of based on what's going on in your life right now, trying to get through school, that kind of thing. Those of you that know me well know that I became the head coach at Lenore Middle School back a few months ago. And, I kind of knew going into it what it would be. We, prior to the season start, we had 5 kids transfer out. I've had a couple kids get injured, and it just seems like it's been one thing after another. We currently stand at 0-9, but here's the main thing I tell my kids all the time: regardless of if we go 0-20, 20-0, the main key to a successful season in my book is that we get better each practice, each game, and that's really all you can ask for. I mean, you can't always control who you match up with, who you got to play. County teams you have to play. Your out-of-county schedule, you make it. You don't always really know what the other team has. You're just trying to, fill that 20-game schedule. So sometimes you just get matched up with guys that are just, probably have a lot more talent than you do, maybe a lot more experience, different factors, whatever. But I think the main thing is that my New Year's resolution I want to be is I preach this to my guys, and then we get in the middle of a game, at halftime or something, and I'm just negative, negative, negative. As to me, I want to carry a more positive mindset to my players, to myself. And for the most part I do, but I just catch myself at times during a bad loss or a bad practice that I kind of let that slip away, and then I talk about all the negative. And I don't want to talk about anybody, but to me, I'll put it like this: former coaches I've seen, they've kind of drug kids down. They put a lot of negative in their head, and you can't really expect a kid to perform when all you're talking about is negative, negative, negative. I think if I just want to be a better positive reinforcer for these kids to excel, to become better players, and not only that, become better young men. And I think that's my responsibility, and that's kind of what I want to focus on going into 2025.
Yeah, great New Year's resolution. I think that's something that everybody can have on their list as well. I think everybody needs to be more positive. So in saying that, we want to wrap up this episode. We want to thank everybody for tuning in. If you've made it this far, give us a like and a follow, and subscribe to our page. We really appreciate all the engagement that we can get. We want to thank Braydun Ferris for coming in. Great interview. Hopefully the first of many. And like I said, just thanks everybody for all the support. We'll see you next time.